Hello, I'm Annabelle.
And I'm Billy, and we're from Confection Perfection in Maidstone, based in Kent.
We're experts in all aspects of cake decorating.
And today we're going to be showing you a bit about marzipan and cake decorating.
So this is how to do cake decorating with icing. The icing that I'm going to use is called sugar paste, also known as rolled fondant. Before you use sugar paste, you have to knead it until it is really nice and soft and smooth. What happens is the action, the movement of kneading it, combined with the warmth of your hands, slightly alters the shape of the sugar crystals, which means that the finished icing is much smoother and it also makes it easier to handle. If the icing is sticking at all, you can use a light dusting of cornflour. Icing sugar can also be used, but I find that cornflour works better and you need less of it. So you knead the icing until it feels smooth and shiny, and you can see the difference between the bit that I've kneaded and the bit that I haven't. This unkneaded portion is much more granular and would be harder to roll out. And this is why cake ladies don't need to go to the gym. So you keep kneading until the whole ball is really soft and smooth. And then dust the work surface with icing sugar. It's very tempting when you knead the icing, you always end up with a central crease. And it's very tempting to turn the icing upside down so that you're hiding it. If you do that, this crease doesn't disappear, it stays as a weakness. And then when you come to pick the icing up, sometimes it'll crack, sometimes you just see a faint line running through the middle of your cake. So always have that bit looking at you, and then as you roll it out, it does disappear. I'm going to use spacers. These help you roll the icing out to a nice even thickness. Very often people roll icing too thinly, and that also makes it crack and split. So the spacers help you keep the icing to a good thickness of 5mm. So I'm going to roll the icing one way, turn it round and roll it a bit the other way. And you can see that as I'm rolling, that big crease that was running through the middle has more or less disappeared. And it will have done by the time I've finished. And you keep going until it won't roll out anymore. And then you know that you've got that at the correct thickness. You need something to stick the icing to the cake, and we're going to ice the cake, the sides and the board all in one go. Cool boiled water works very well. Just going to brush a little bit over the cake. You want to make this slightly damp, not wet, just ever so slightly damp. And what happens is a little bit of the water dissolves some of the sugar that's present in the marzipan and icing, and effectively it's making a sugar glue which will stick your icing in place. So I've made the top damp. I'm now going round the sides and also onto the cake board. You then want to pick the icing up over the rolling pin and place it over the cake. Smooth the icing on top of the cake first. If you can feel an air bubble, you just lift the icing up and push the air bubble out. So you want to smooth the icing around the side of the cake. If the icing starts to pleat, just pick it up and gently ease it round with your hands. Once you've smoothed the icing on the top of the cake and you've smoothed it round the side of the cake, you then need to smooth the icing onto the cake board. Use this bit of your hand just to press it down so it's fixed onto the board. You then want to use a small palette knife just to trim the icing from around the edge of the board. Make sure that the knife is straight. If you have it resting on the board, you can then cut nice and cleanly around the edge. You pick up the spare bits of icing so that they're out of the way. Just to get an even better finish on the cake, if you use a pair of smoothers, so circular movements on the top of the cake, and then around the side. Be careful when you use your smoother around the side. You've iced the board and you don't want to gouge marks into the board. And you also want to use your smoother around the edge of the board. After you've done your smoothing, sometimes the icing has stretched a little bit and you'll need to re-trim the edge of the board. So I'm just running the palette knife around, making sure that it's flat against the edge of the board. Now where you get these little drag lines from cutting the icing, if you just run your hand round, you can polish those off and you've got a nice smooth finish. I usually crimp around the edge of the board as a nice finishing touch. Crimpers, there's lots of different designs. I always liken them to oversized tweezers, and you basically pinch, and when you pinch the icing between, you then get a pattern. So I'm going to pinch the whole way round. So that's how to do cake decorating with icing.